What's up guys, Barry Gaming here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today we have an updated December 2023 tier list for Transcendence Heroes across a bunch of different game modes. Now, you guys know, you've seen this like very broken down tier list we've done before. I did update it with the two newest heroes, Betty and Gaggy, so those two are now on the Transcendence Heroes list. This is not going to have any of the normal heroes. I'm thinking about doing just a basic version of a tier list of those coming up too, for those of you guys who just want to know the value of regular heroes nowadays. But this is specifically for Transcendence Heroes and where they shine the best. Each column you see is going to be ranked from 1 to 19. Number 1, if you see a 1 in that cell with a blue color, that means they are the best in this game mode. If you see a 19, probably means they're the worst. Granted, like spots 13 to 19 nowadays, they're pretty interchangeable. It just means they're not very much used in most of these game modes here. So we're going to jump in, we're going to break it down, we're going to show you guys the overall list, and we're going to show you the overall rank at the end. If you guys want to check out the actual tier list itself, is going to be a link in the description to the imager file there. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Leave a comment down below, let me know who you would change around. If you've had any different experiences with heroes as well, definitely leave in the comments down below so we have that feedback for the next tier list. Let's get going. So what I'm going to be showing you is my Google Docs version of our tier list. This is where I do all my edits and everything, all the changes. You can see pretty much all the columns here. You can see who the overall rank is. But again, the PDF version or the PNG version is going to be the better one that is in the description. It's going to have everything based on overall rank. And then you can see kind of where everybody ranks. First off, though, we're going to sort this based on kind of the difficulty here. And actually, one thing I forgot to change is switch these orders around right here. So we might do a couple changes on the fly if we notice something looking a little bit off, but I tried to make sure most of this looks good before we started. This one's for Purgatory, 100 to 300. As we've seen, Lord of Fear Aspen is one of the best heroes in that game mode. However, there is one or two really hard counters, one of them being Amun Ra with the healing curse. Number 2 is Penny, because once you get up to like 200 to 300, it's really hard to outspeed the enemies, so you do run into issues. Betty, Doom Terminator, Vulcan, all very strong ones up the top here. Hyperspace Hunter Ilamok gets a good rank because he does very, very well against Amun Ra waves, so having him on your lineup does help with the RNG on your clears. And then, as you guys can see, there have been some changes to the list. Swordflash still kind of stays up higher just because we are including 100 to 200 where she is better in. And yeah, you can kind of see as it falls down the list here, the top is the top. Moving over to Tower of Dreams. So now this goes up to 30. Betty has definitely placed herself at the top of this list in a lot of columns here. Same with Aspen. A lot of times here, you'll see me ranking Betty maybe 1 and Aspen 2 in a couple different game modes. They might be interchangeable, but personally my experiences with Betty have been very positive, where she makes waves possible that previously were potentially issues or RNG with Lord of Fear Aspen. Of course, the big damage dealers are always going to be like the 1, 2, 3, 4 at the very, very top. Starwing Jar for crowd control can still be very good, especially in tandem with Betty. Having a Scarlet Queen Halor on your team for more damage, Hyperspace Hunter Ilamok for shields. You're going to see these two heroes pretty much ranked side by side in almost every single game mode, just because they're the support to have. Same with Phantom Firelane. In a lot of game modes, she's going to be right there with them. Now, the way we rank Sealand 30 to 35 is more or less, number 1, are they more or less solo capable of clearing it? And then number 2, are they a good support for that solo clear? So you'll kind of see that some support heroes that are very good for this game mode aren't ranked very high, but that's because they're not the damage dealer. The damage dealers, Doom Terminator, Vulcan, Lord of Fear Aspen, very easy to get those Sealands done. Not quite as easy with Betty, but still pretty good. Star Swordsman Mockman is just a harder version of clearing it with Lord of Fear Aspen, but it can still be done. Asmodel Adonis, again, he can do Sealand 35, but it's just a harder version of Doom Terminator, Vulcan. Fairy Queen Vesta can clear it out pretty good too. The only information I don't have, so I kind of need your guys' feedback on this one. I kind of put, oh, I actually have some little typos in here too. Yeah, looks like I didn't get quite to the right number of 19 down here. I haven't had much experience with Mutated Fungus G-Sturt, so I do need your assistance on placing him. I put him in 11th. I'm not quite sure if that's the right place, to be honest. So I kind of need your guys' feedback on this. So yeah, we do have to change this up a little bit here. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 17. And yeah, we've had some bad experiences with some of these heroes trying to do it solo down the bottom, so a little bit of a tweak here. Basically, damage dealers get priority in this list, just so you know. We could actually change this to 141 plus at this point, but I'm going to keep it at 121. And again, you're going to see a very common occurrence of all the top heroes. Fairy Queen Vesta still does very good in this game mode because of her healing and her shielding. And as you see going down the list, the damage dealers, the main support heroes, and then kind of everybody else that is an older hero or not a hero that's made for damage necessarily. Now, Bloodtide Queen Aria, I do know she has more value now that Destiny Transition comes out. It's very hard for me to quantify it right now. She's going to look like she's very bad down the bottom, but it was really hard for me to find places to put her further up in the list, especially in like as a supporting role in campaign and these other game modes. I know people are using her. I need your guys' opinion on where to put her. So big asterisk on this one. Bloodtide Queen Aria is better than she looks on this tier list, and we're going to make a separate video about that once we learn a little bit more what people are doing with this hero now that she's Destiny Transition. The only downside of Destiny Transition is it's very hard to swap from hero to hero to test nowadays, so I'm kind of locked in with what my experiences can be. Need your guys' input on that as well. Vortex Overseer. So Betty has made this such an easy clear nowadays. Again, her only counter is essentially like literally there's only one counter, and that counter is Valkyrie. Like, you know, in every game mode, it's the only counter. Besides that, she crushes it. Vulcan does really good. Aspen does very good. It's the typical that you're used to seeing in this list and all these changes going down. Again, if you want to see some more specifics, check out the link in the description. Now, we left campaign 4 and 5 here instead of going to 5 and 6 because 6 is something pretty much nobody can get to. Like, you can get through like a level or two or something like that, but then you're gonna get hard stuck. So we're not even talking about that until the nerf comes on chapter 6. As you guys can see, Betty, she's just killing it. Literally, the only wave that stops Betty is Valkyrie, and then you have to figure out a different strategy. But if there's no Valkyries in sight, there's victories in sight all over the place. Star Expedition is the next one. Of course, Lord of Fear, Aspen, Mystic Fairy, Freya, Scarlet Queen, Halora. That is just the holy trinity that everybody uses. Very important. If you're going for other solo damage dealers, Mutated Fungus G-Star and Fairy Queen Vesta are still very good. Hyperspace Hunter Ilamok, once you get under 100 bars, is very helpful for shielding. Same with Phantom Defier Lena for survivability if you need it as well. And then, of course, other damage dealers kind of fall in line down the list. Some of these I did literally put like the same score for them. I know that's going to look a little weird on a couple of these spots, and I did change it over here, but I'm kind of keeping it because they kind of serve the same purpose and have pretty much the same damage output, so we're gonna leave it for now. Moving over to Force War Lair. Now this one is not something people care about too much. Let me shift this over a little bit more. You guys can see a little bit more of the details here. I'm gonna shift all the way over to the far right. Force War. Not many people care about this. We're talking about the boss battles. Again, Betty does absolutely amazing. These two could be swapped 1 and 2 once again. It really comes down to what your guys' preferences are. Damage dealers, warriors are probably the strongest, but again, you use either Betty or Aspen and these heroes. Again, this is one where, now that I kind of sit down and talk about it, there is a boss in these waves. Betty is not as good as a solo Aspen. And here's the issue. If you want to get to 900 points in Force War, you either have to pick mages or you have to pick warriors. Warriors, you get these 3 studs here. This, you only get her. So, you know, as I'm talking about it, we're doing a hot fix here. We're doing a change up. That does modify the scores a little bit here. It does bump Betty down a bit. It's hard because you have to decide against mages and warriors for who you're not counting in your lineup. PvP is the last one, just kind of generic list here. It's not anything for like super endgame. If you're super endgame, don't take a look at this. If you're just mid game, late game, stuff like that, this is a very good list. And finally, we have the overall score right here. So the overall score, yeah, after a couple tweaks, Lord of Fear Aspen rightfully is at the very top of this list. Therapist of Blood Betty, very close, and then Doom Terminator Vulcan. And then you'll notice after the top 3, the scores drop significantly lower, and you can kind of see most of these heroes are ones that are used Star Search and Mockman probably deserves to be a little bit lower on this, but it's really hard to kind of quantify that because it's kind of like an either or Vulcan or Mockman type thing. But then of course you have your 3 supports that just about everybody's running: Halora, Ilamok, Natalia, very strong. Vessa's fallen off. Elena might be a little bit stronger, but she's more of a support hero than Vessa in certain scenarios. So that is the overall list. That's the overall score. Again, I'm going to have an updated list in the description down below if you want to check out the whole thing. It gives you guys a pretty good idea. Aspen is still the hero you want to build, with Betty as a secondary hero after you fill out the entire Lord of your Aspen home. And that's my opinion. Again, just my opinion. I need your guys' opinions in the comments down below. Get some constructive feedback going. Let's talk about different heroes. Let's talk about where they should be in this list. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. I'll see you guys next time.